What if I told you there's a plant, one that humans have been using for at least 6,000 years, that could change our future? We're talking about a crop that can become food, clothes, bioplastics, building materials, even biofuel. It actually makes the soil healthier and uses way, way less water than something like cotton. So the big question is, why isn't it everywhere? Well, that's the story we're diving into. A supercrop that's been hiding in plain sight, tangled up in a century-old case of mistaken identity. Okay, so to really get what this plant is all about, we have to clear up the number one biggest point of confusion. It's the one thing that has held it back for 100 years, its relationship with its very, very famous cousin. You know, farmers literally have to put up signs like this one: industrial hemp, not marijuana, no THC. I mean, you can see why people get confused. They are, botanically speaking, the exact same species, Cannabis sativa L. But, and this is the important part, they are worlds apart when you look at their chemical makeup and what they're actually used for. The entire legal and practical difference, everything, boils down to one single compound: THC. Tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the main part of the plant that's intoxicating. Industrial hemp, on the other hand, is specifically grown to have almost zero THC, which makes it totally impossible to use as a drug. It really is all about the chemistry. So here's the line in the sand. It's drawn at 0.3% THC. Anything below that, and you've got industrial hemp, this amazing source of fiber and food that was actually exempted for industrial use way back in a 1961 UN treaty. But anything above that 0.3% mark, well, then it's legally considered marijuana and it's treated as a controlled substance. Same plant, but they're living in two completely different legal and social realities. And here's the thing, this is not some newfangled discovery. Hemp has been a cornerstone of human civilization for millennia. Its modern story is really one of a dramatic fall from grace and a really slow, really difficult climb back into the spotlight. For thousands of years, hemp was a vital crop all over the world. But then, in the early 20th century, it just got swept up in prohibition, banned purely because of its association with marijuana. And even after a 1961 UN treaty made it official that industrial hemp is different from narcotics, it still took decades, pretty much until the 1990s, for a real comeback to even start, as countries slowly began to remember what they'd been missing. You don't have to take my word for it. A United Nations report puts it perfectly, saying that for centuries, hemp has been a source of, quote, biomaterials, food, medicines, and preparations for ritual purposes. Its history is just incredibly rich and complex. So what is it that makes it a super crop? Well, the secret is its incredible versatility. The key idea here is what the experts call a whole plant approach, where, and this is the amazing part, literally no part of the plant goes to waste. Just look at this. Every single part of this plant has a job. The stalks give us fibers for textiles, even for car parts. The woody core on the inside, that becomes construction materials. The seeds are a nutritional powerhouse. We're talking food and oil. Even the flowers and leaves can be processed for all sorts of valuable extracts. It's basically a one-stop shop for sustainable materials. And the chemical complexity of this plant is, well, it's just astounding. Scientists have already identified over 500 different compounds inside it, and that includes around 100 different cannabinoids. We are truly just scratching the surface of what this little natural factory has to offer. And from a sustainability angle, the difference is just stark. To produce 1 single kilogram of fiber, cotton needs almost 10,000 liters of water. Hemp, it needs less than half of that. That's a water saving of up to 75%. I mean, in a world that's facing serious water scarcity, that's an absolute game changer. And the benefits for farmers are just as impressive. Hemp actually regenerates the soil it grows in, it prevents erosion, and it needs very few pesticides to thrive. And get this, planting it in rotation can actually boost the yield of the next crop you plant, like wheat, by up to 20%. That's incredible. Okay, so we've got an ancient, versatile, super sustainable crop. This all sounds amazing, right? A little too good to be true, maybe? Well, that brings us to the central conflict of our story. If this plant is so great, what on earth is holding it back? The answer, unfortunately, is a global web of red tape. So, we're back to the question we started with. The potential is obviously immense, but the road to a global market is just blocked by decades of regulatory confusion, high taxes, and a whole mess of complicated rules that end up penalizing the very people who grow it. So one of the biggest hurdles is this thing called tariff escalation. It sounds complicated, but the idea is actually pretty simple. Countries tend to put higher taxes or tariffs on finished products, like hemp yarn, than they do on raw materials. This system makes it way cheaper to just export the raw plant than it is to export valuable processed goods. And what that does is it discourages developing countries from building their own industries and capturing more of that economic value for themselves. And it gets more complicated. On top of the taxes, there's this whole web of what they call non-tariff measures. We're talking about strict quotas, special licenses, and really specific testing requirements. Dozens of countries impose these kinds of rules, creating this incredibly complex and costly maze for anyone who's just trying to build an international hemp business. But, it's not a hopeless situation. The same UN report that lays out all these problems also gives us a map for the path forward. There is a clear plan for how the world can untangle this mess and finally unlock hemp's incredible potential. So, the UN report suggests a clear 3-step plan. First, we've got to improve the data, because you just can't manage what you don't measure. Second, and this is the big one, we have to harmonize the rules. All the countries need to agree on a single science-based framework that finally ends the confusion with marijuana. And third, we need to actively support sustainable value chains to make sure that the producers, especially those in developing nations, can truly benefit from all of this. So we're left with this, a crop with a 6,000-year history that offers truly modern solutions for just about everything, from sustainable materials to food security. Its biggest obstacle isn't in the soil, it's in the legacy of our own laws and misconceptions. The question now is whether we can finally see this ancient plant clearly for what it is, and what it could be, a potential key to a much more sustainable future.